Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of the USFL. Who's ready for this league to fold next week? I sure am. Today we're going to be highlighting the game recaps, quarterback analysis, the USFL business strategy, big plays, and as always, next week's predictions. I hope y'all have a great time. That's right, first up we have the game recap. So I'm not going to do these games in any particular order like I did last week. I'm just going to talk about them from least to most favorite. First up, we had Houston versus Birmingham. This was an absolutely phenomenal football game. Houston, the Gamblers, showed a better offense. It was vastly improved from last week. However, there's some things that I just have to talk about. First off, Clay Thorson can move the football downfield. However, he cannot stop turnovers. There were 3 in this last football game. Kenji Bahar, the second string, is just not the answer that Houston's going to be looking for with that offense. I think the big thing happened. The problems with their offense is it was a little too easily hyped up. Thorson was. He'd throw interceptions whenever he got excited. The announcers would call it every single time. Be like, oh, well, here goes Clay Thorson. He's a bit hyper right now. Coach was talking about how he needed to cool down. He'd throw an interception the next play. So that's all I really have to say against Clayton Thorson. However, he's doing better. He just needs to quit throwing interceptions. On the Birmingham side of the football, quarterback Shamar Smith, just pretty great as normal. He's just doing a good job. His defense was Birmingham does not have a hot defense. They had 23 points scored against them. They did have a good coach with Skip Holtz to get them through, and their quarterback was pretty fire. Alright, next game we have Michigan versus New Jersey. This was probably one of the worst games to watch so far. Now here's my thing, alright? Michigan has no good offense. The end zone pointed it out fairly well that Shea Patterson only really completes throws when he's rolling out of the pocket and it's complete pandemonium on the field. So their defense is pretty stout. Defense is really good, putting up good numbers and stopping offensive plays. However, their offense is a whole different story. When it gets to Jersey, they stalled out several times. There were actually no points scored in the second half of this game, so you could have just left at halftime and missed literally nothing. Once again, the quarterback situation is a bit sketchy with Luis Perez and David Johnson. It works interestingly. I'd love to know Mike Riley's thought process behind switching out the quarterbacks whenever each one gets a rhythm. It's a bit funky. However, New Jersey is 1-1. I mean, they barely lost to Birmingham. I think that the coaching could be a bit better with this 2-quarterback offense. Next up, we have the Philadelphia Stars versus the Pittsburgh Maulers. This was going to be our big rivalry game. Now, here's my thing. The Maulers have improved as much as I loved memeing on them last week. They have improved, but not too terribly much. I mean, they passed the football a little bit more. Jordan Love was pretty hot. The defense is still not what we thought it was going to be. For the Philadelphia Stars, the offensive line is still bad. The defense is still a bit sketchy, and Brian Scott has been sacked 10 times this entire season, more than any other quarterback. He's putting up Patrick Mahomes level stats, but he's getting sacked like Davis Mills. So, all in all, I think both Philadelphia and the Maulers were a bit overhyped heading into these games. Next up, we have the Bandits versus the Breakers. Now, this was supposed to be the game of the week, and what turned into Breakers just absolutely destroying the Bandits left and right. 34-3. Jordan Teamu chokes. There's no other way to put it. His dual threat abilities were out the window, and there were opportunities for his team to get back in the game, but he never really took them. Stuck in the second string, but nothing happened there. They scored 1 field goal, and the Bandits just absolutely choked. Now, when it comes to the Breakers, Kyle Sloter was on point. 42 out of 66 catches for the season so far, and their defense was just absolutely stomping on Tampa Bay. Only 3 points scored. Total dominance by New Orleans. Watch out for these guys, and Birmingham, definitely watch out for these guys. From what I have seen so far, if Birmingham keeps playing like this, even though I'm just 2 games into the season, we're definitely going to have a postseason team with the Breakers. Who's ready for QB analysis? First up, the Offensive Player of the Week, Kyle Sloter. I've got one word for Kyle Sloter, and that is big. Big plays left and right, amazing passing. He's got 63% completions. I'd say he's the best quarterback in the league right now, and if he's not the best quarterback, he's definitely got the best team around him to win. He does not stall in the second halves like a lot of these different teams. I really like what Kyle Sloter's bringing to the table. His pass to Adams this past week was totally Adams doing and none of Kyle Sloter's. However, he threw it to Adams and Adams came down with it, which is what matters. He's got 416 yards this season and a 123.6% completion rating. And that is why, my friends, you're going to probably see this guy in the postseason. I absolutely love what I've seen from the Breakers so far. Next up, we have Brian Scott. Now, here's the thing with Brian Scott is he's a great quarterback. He's gotten 70% of his passes, 51 completed passes, which is more than most of these quarterbacks have thrown for the season. Now, I do have several problems with Brian Scott. Not him specifically, but his supporting cast. He's been sacked 10 times, more than any other player in the league, and the next closest player to be sacked that many times is Shea Patterson, and he's only at 5 sacks so far for the season. Brian Scott, however, he's got 138.9 passer rating. He's absolutely on fire this season. However, his offensive line is not. I think if we can get a better offensive line around Brian Scott, we're going to see a better Brian Scott in general. Next up, we have Jamar Smith. I like Jamar Smith. His past game against the Houston Gamblers was what I would like to see out of Jamar Smith, because it really let the Gamblers win. I think he's a great quarterback, in all honesty. He's got an 139 passer rating, only 1 sack, and his offense is totally fire when it's out there with him. He did have a couple of moments during the game where like he was seeing ghosts, but you know, he's overall a pretty great quarterback, and I'm really excited to see what he can do next week against the Breakers. He better hope he has a good defense, because whoo buddy, Breakers were not polite when it came to destroying teams. Next up, Jordan Love. Now here's the thing, Jordan Love has 30 completed passes out of 54 throws. Leads him just slightly above 50%, 55% completion rating. However, the cool thing comes when he's got 359 yards for the season with only 30 completed throws. He's got 5 sacks. We can look past that. He's at 115 points for passer rating. He just needs a better supporting cast, better coach. I think if he was with a different team, he would be a lot better than what we're seeing out of him right this second. Next up, I see Shea Patterson. Now, here's the thing with Shea Patterson is the end zone detailed him very well in his past video. He's only really making throws whenever it's pandemonium. Whenever he's rolling out of the pocket, scrambling, that's the only time that he's completing his passes, which that's not what you want to have with an offense. You want a good quarterback that can function under order and not chaos, alright? So, Shea Patterson, he's got 5 sacks, 112 points for passer rating. He's overhyped, should not have gone for the first overall. I think that should have gone to Kyle Sloter or Brian Scott, honestly. Next up, we have Jordan Te'amu. Now, here's the thing with poor Jordan Te'amu. He got absolutely thrashed this last game. He's got 28 out of 50 throws completed, 56% completion rating. That's not good. He's only got 247 yards, which is substantially below most of these quarterbacks. And he's got a 92 passer rating. We're going to need to see more from from Jordan Te'amu if we want him to do anything great. Next up, we have now Luis Perez. Luis Perez has been sharing time with DeAndre Johnson, so all of his stats are going to be a bit lower than the rest of these players because he's splitting time with the quarterback evenly, about 50-50. Luis Perez, I do like him. He's got 70% of his throws are completed. He's 26 for 37. He's got 240 yards with 137 points in passer ratings. He's been sacked 3 times, but he's doing pretty good. I would love to see a little bit more of him playing. I think Luis Perez is a very great quarterback, and I don't think Mike Riley's going to be giving him justice this season. And last, and probably not least, I hope he's not least, it's Clay Thorson. Now here's the thing, Clay Thorson has completed just 50% of his passes, which is not good at all. Brian Scott's over there completing 70% of his passes. Clay Thorson's bringing up the rear with 50% of his passes. He's got 214 yards. That's 2 games. That is right there with Luis Perez. And Luis Perez has more, and he splits time. Clay Thorson's got a couple problems. He's thrown, 4 interceptions. But he's getting into the flow of things, I think. Watching him on TV, you can definitely tell the coaches are like, all right, we have to calm this guy down before he throws an interception. Next thing, he throws an interception. Who would have guessed it? All right, who's ready for big plays? We're going to be taking my favorite play from each game, and there's going to be 4 different plays, and y'all will vote underneath in the comment section below. We're going to try this again because y'all didn't vote last time. But it's okay, I still love y'all. First up, we're going to have Kyle Sloter's big throw to Allen. What a catch. This is just an amazing Odell Beckham Jr., but Walmart brand. Next up, we're going to have Jalen McClain absolutely torching it out there. Then we're going to have Brian Allen's pick. Look at that. Just absolutely beautiful. What a jump. Grabs up. Just does everything beautiful there. And then we're going to have Scarlett just walks into the end zone. They don't even try to stop him. What a play. That's right. Now it's time to talk USFL business. We've had 3 leagues so far, and all of them have folded, except for the USFL, because we're now just 2 games in. But hey, it hasn't folded quite yet, which is good. Spring football, I think, is finally catching on. The USFL needs a better PR team. Their first week, they started off with 3.4 million viewers right off the gate, which is amazing. However, their second week, they were under, for several games, 1 million viewers. So that returning viewership is really important, and they did not get any of that. The big thing with the USFL is some of that quarterback play in the first game that they've ever aired was boring. I did not enjoy watching just the run game left and right. It was a bit predictable. You had the read option by Mike Riley and Skip Holtz. You think they have slightly better idea of attack. The only teams right now showing up to the games is Birmingham, which is to be expected because all the games are being played in Birmingham. But if they're looking for a one city at a deal, 1 city at a time deal, they've got that down. They're going to need TV viewership to keep this league going. I would dare say, stop putting teams in only 1 city. If you have Birmingham, keep all of the southern teams in Birmingham next year, because Birmingham fans do show up for their games. And then go up north to the other hub city, whether that be in New Jersey, Detroit, wherever you need, and put all your northern teams up there. Sort of like the Spring League. However, now you have 2 hub cities and 2 potential cities really going strong. Now, Birmingham in and of itself has fans. I'm not sure what the exact attendance numbers are, but when it's not Birmingham playing, the people of Birmingham do not show up for the games, which is going to cause problems with ticket sales, and that's, what everyone on the news is talking about, like, oh, there's no fans in Birmingham. I'm like, it's 1 city, and the people showing up to the Birmingham games are there for their Birmingham team. It's like a Texan, go up into Seattle to watch the Seattle Seahawks. I'm not a Seattle Seahawks fan at all. I cheer for the Texans. I'm not just going to go up to Seattle to watch Seattle play the 49ers for some odd reason. It's just something that I'm not interested in because it's not my home city. Bit of tribalism, but we're going to get past that. When it comes to investors, they definitely need them after this season. Fox Sports is picking up most of the bill. NBC Sports and company, they're picking up some of the slack too. However, I'm not too terribly sure how much they're paying to get those USFL TV rights, and even NBC sportscasters, people like The Herd are like, well, there's no one showing up to the game, you're not going to have the SFL or the USFL, spring football is bad. Which, I mean, that's what just a very casual outside observer looks into, and we can make excuses all day long, but in the end, I think the USFL will fail in the end just because they don't have those ticket sales coming in left and right. And the ticket sales that they do have are $10 a game. So they're not making really any money from fan attendance. I will give credit to Prime Color. I think he got this one thing right. That the USFL picked some whack cities. Houston still has an XFL team in it. I do like his choice of Birmingham and perhaps Michigan Panthers. I'll hit that on a little bit later. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and New Orleans have never had a spring football team in their cities. We have no clue how that's even going to work. Tampa Bay and New Jersey / New York didn't have fans show up to their big games. However, circling back to the Panthers, the Lions are a bad team, and Detroit doesn't support their bad teams. I mean, they do, but like, who wants to go and watch the Texans get thrashed by the Buffalo Bills 40-0 again? I personally don't. And if you bring in another bad football team, it's just going to be another team that people are like, oh, well, our team's bad, which is saddening, and I think a lot of fans were showing up for Houston games because Houston had a good team, but I concede. Next up, but I think the next thing that we're going to definitely need to realize is investors are going to put their money into a league that works, and if the USFL does not make it through the end of the season, they will not work. Here's what I think the USFL needs to do. They need to just be consistent. They need to pay their players, pay their coaches, pay all their staff, pay all their bills, and that will give credit to investors and be like, you know what? I think these guys can run themselves fairly well. I think the USFL is looking for team logos, no, not team logos, team owners, and if the team owners can take it from there, but they're definitely not going to get like some billionaire like Elon Musk to buy a team. Now, if they did, that'd be amazing publicity, and then I'd have a lovely talk about the USFL versus the XFL. Alright, Elon Musk versus Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Let's see what would happen there. That'd be fun. That's all I have for the USFL business. They've been doing good. As long as they keep up paying their bills, I think we'll actually see this league see the end of the season, maybe even a postseason. I'm excited for what spring football has for us later. Next up, we have next week predictions. Let's start off simple. Birmingham versus the Breakers. I think that's going to be the game of the night. I think the Breakers are going to beat Birmingham. They've got a superior offense and a superior defense. Birmingham's offense is really going to struggle against the Breakers' D, and I do not think Breakers' defense is going to have much trouble stopping the Birmingham offense. And when it comes to the Birmingham offense, the Birmingham defense, I think they're going to really struggle against the Breakers' offense. I think it's going to be a close start, but in the end, Birmingham will probably win by about 10 points. Next up, we're going to have New Jersey versus Philadelphia. From what I've seen, I think Philadelphia will be able to beat New Jersey. Now, Philadelphia's defense isn't crazy, however, their offense is pretty crazy. Now, New Jersey, I don't think they've got the defensive line to really put Brian Scott on his toes like the last two teams that he's been playing. However, I do think Philadelphia will be able to pull out a second win this season. Next, we have Houston versus Tampa Bay. I think Houston will win this if they play like they did in Week 1 or Week 2, and if Tampa Bay plays like they did in Week 1 and Week 2, I think they will still lose. Now here's my thing, Tampa Bay's just been having struggles with their offense. A lot of people were saying this is the best well-rounded team. I have not seen that so far. They don't score any points in the second half. They've only got 20 points in total, and both of those were scored in the first half of the football game. I think that Week 3 is a perfect time to turn it around, and I'm not going to say they can't. However, then I'm going to say it's going to be unlikely for me. I think Houston and Clay Thorson, if they can get Clay Thorson calmed down, let him chill out a little bit. I think he will be a great player, and I think Tampa Bay is going to be on the hot seat. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I love y'all, and may the Lord bless you.